Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to do a panel discussion on some tips to providing secure remote access for employees and contractors. We've reached an interesting point or time with this global pandemic where many organizations, schools, and governments have literally overnight had to move to work from home models. For today, we've got a star-studded panel here to kind of come in here and talk a little bit about what are some of the challenges, hurdles to overcome, and more importantly, how you can move to a work from home in a secure manner and provide those users, whether they're employees or contractors, remote access to corporate data from personal or corporate issued devices. So I'm going to take a step back here and let them introduce themselves. My name is Bob Slocum. I'm responsible for product and solutions marketing here at Blackberry. I'll bring on Rich Thompson.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Rich Thompson. I'm the Vice President of Sales Engineering and happy to be with you today.
And hey there, it's Alex Willis, also a VP of Sales Engineering, and I also have the Global ISV Partnership Team.
David Wiseman, I'm Vice President of our Secure Communication Solutions at Blackberry.
Excellent. And thank you guys for joining, and thanks for dialing in. Let's get started because all three of you have decades of experience in this industry, as well as helping customers. Let's just kind of tee this up a little bit. And as interacting with customers out in the field, what are we seeing? What is the challenges that are being brought forth to you and your teams? And what are we looking at? So I'm just going to tee it up. Anybody can dive in to answer.
Yeah, I'll jump in first. It's Alex. I think you mentioned something key there is, we've all been doing this for a very long time. Organizations have been doing it for a long time. And by it, I mean, work from home or mobile workforce, business transformation. We've been helping customers do this for years and years and years. And as the technology has grown, as our portfolio and capabilities have grown, we've been able to help customers really get to the true promise of work from anywhere on any device. The challenge that we've seen in the last month or 2 months is, how do you get there tomorrow? The technology is there, and a lot of organizations have done it for some of their employees, their mobile workforce, be their road warriors and such. But it's, how do I get the people that don't usually work from home? How do I get that done? And not only how do we sit down and design this project and move forward, it's, I know I need it tomorrow. That's the biggest challenge, is how do I do it very quickly and very securely, right? They don't want to loosen up their security levels just to be able to meet this. They know they have to do it, but they also have to make sure that they're maintaining security, sometimes because of regulatory compliance or whatever, but also just as good stewards of and corporate information.
I would add to that, obviously the rapid transformation and the group of knowledge workers who are typically, potentially not mobile enabled, right? They're, think of somebody like finance or HR or things of that nature. But also the uncertainty. There's enough stress and uncertainty around what's going on with this pandemic. But on top of that, now potentially having to transition away from their corporate device, maybe to personal devices. And then the uncertainty around privacy, right? Privacy goes both ways in this case. One is being able to maintain privacy with the corporate data and enforce data security policies from a corporation perspective. Where's this data going to go? Where's it going to live? What if it gets to one of these personal devices? But also from the user, they want to know that private means private, that now if they're enabling work on their home device, that they're not exposing their own personal usage outside of that. So it needs to be clear and transparent to that user, and that's definitely things that we can offer, and we've been kind of pioneering for some time.
Yeah, this is David. The other thing that comes up to build a bit on what Alex talked about is technology's there, but there's some challenges around people really in a time of crisis feel comfortable introducing new technology, new solutions. And so, some of the things we're hearing about is, hey, they're concerned about network connectivity. They're concerned about getting through internal security reviews. Staff, it's kind of hard to get people trained up on new things in this distributed state that everyone's in. So I think as part of that, we're seeing more and more of a drive into what types of things, can be delivered fully from a cloud basis that don't require the connectivity to our back-end systems, but still give us the ability to touch our employees, customers securely. So I think there's a bit of a mindset change, and what people consider is a way to effectively deal with the times we're in right now.
And education too. I think people, like Rich was talking about, people who've never worked from home, it's not normal for them. So they don't recognize when things are normal or risky, that kind of thing. So some education needs to happen as well but then of course having the tools in place to protect them from what they don't know, even accidental data leakage and things like that. So having those controls I've seen that as a requirement from the hordes of customers that are really, that we're talking to over the last 2 months and delivering on these projects. Those are the main concerns there, is how do I keep our data protected, and how do I protect my users even from accidental situations?
The crisis and the panic, right? This rapid enablement, changes things from an implementation standpoint. Imagine, because not only do you have the worker now needing to be able to work from home on their consumer grade home network through potentially consumer grade routing gear at the house, but also they have potentially their spouses, the other loved ones, their children also having to take up a lot of bandwidth, Zoom meetings and WebExes, doing class from home and participating in online classes, participating in other meetings that other folks may have. So you're putting quite a bit of bandwidth concerns on there. And then how do you deal with consumer grade networking gear that you may or may not trust in that environment? It's kind of a rapidly evolving problem that can have a lot of gaps and potentially fraught with some holes.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say beyond the technology aspects, particularly, when you're working with people in your organization, people that you're managing in teams, you also have to kind of change your communications cadence. That, when you might normally talk to someone a couple of times a week, now you probably need to reach out and talk with them once or twice a day. You need to kind of get the teams together on a more regular basis so people, just feel connected. Because, a lot of times when people aren't hearing anything in times of crisis, they start to assume the worst. So in addition to the technology, and once you have that in place, just kind of think about how you're engaging with your teams, how you're engaging with your organization, and make sure that, you're doing everything you can to make people feel comfortable that they know what's going on.
And Bob, I'm starting to see some questions coming up that I'm dying to get to an answer. So I don't know if you're going to moderate them as they come in, or if we're going to I don't know if I want to just jump in.
I see we have several great ones here.
Yeah, well, I see one from Russ that I commented on, the time scale that they need it tomorrow, and he pointed out, you mean yesterday, not tomorrow, right? And yeah, of course, I think there's still some organizations kind of grappling with this, but we've started helping organizations with this over the last 2 months. And I can give you an example of how quick we're working with our customers to get this going. Health insurance organization just over this past weekend that needed to get up and running. They're an organization of 1,000 users. They're accessing health records. So obviously there's some regulatory compliance there, but there's definitely a need for security on that. And through a partner on the ground, we helped that organization get up and running in 48 hours, fully operational, 1,000 users. So yeah, of course, it's not tomorrow, it's yesterday. But for the organization still grappling with this and they come to us, we can get them up and running very quickly on this.
As we talk about these people moving from home and unpack some of the things you three already called out, one of the big issues that we have here is personal versus corporate. Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, obviously we know if it's corporate, it's a lot easier in the fact that I can slap on a VPN or I can slack on any security controls that I want. It's a corporate issued device. Granted, respecting privacy laws in different regions around the globe. But as a whole, if it's a corporate issued device, I can put stuff on there versus personal, right? Talk to me a little bit about this. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing and addressing?
Often scale and that timeline of yesterday. People have computers at home that they can use, and organizations are finding it difficult to acquire large scale bulk, say laptops, for example. There's some supply chain issues now with the demand rising to the degree it is. Sometimes the home computers is the kind of only way. And like you pointed out, if you've got a corporate device, you can fully control that and really lock that down. But don't forget it. That also requires a lot of resources. If you're buying 5,000 laptops, your IT is going to have to do their imaging or whatever their process is to get those deployed and then shipped out. I've seen companies struggle with, how do I get these to my employees at home? Can I ship them? Is that going to be resilient? Are they going to get it in time? Or do I have to make my employees come back into the office one more time to pick it up, which of course you don't want to do. And so getting something secured on the home computer is just the fastest way to do it. But we're also seeing, it's not just computers like home desktops or laptops, it's also tablets as well. So we're seeing, will relate to one of the other questions as well, we are seeing a huge increase in just overall applications usage. So not just using mobile phones and tablets for email and simple web browsing or web applications, but using third-party applications around productivity. So whether it's document editing and all those types of applications, time management, all of those applications as well. We're seeing a really dramatic increase in those usages. I'm monitoring those and seeing those spikes as well. So I don't know if that answers it fully.
Let me jump into the privacy issue. So this is it's a very interesting approach, right? As Alex was talking, you're seeing really three different mechanisms coming together. One is, how do you secure the applications and the data, right? How do you secure the endpoint itself? And how do you secure the network access and that network layer all at the same time? And keeping in mind that some of those will have different security or different privacy implications. Certainly networking, a lot of that is fairly vetted out, but you have networking concerns, whether you're going to use some VPN or some VDI or other mechanisms. But securing applications, remote working workforces have been dealing with that for some time, but now you put knowledge workers who are used to seeing the certain file share, to get to a certain area and where that data can go. But also, how do you maintain that privacy on their personal device? So this actually goes to one of the other questions about what are we seeing with some of the competitors, right? Many of, I would call some of the endpoint vendors, from a security perspective, personal privacy wasn't core to the technology. They were built to stream lots of data or analyze lots of data that may or may not have a privacy impact. And the pivot to try to get something quickly for a home use type product is fraught with that peril of how much data is being exposed, how much usage is being exposed, especially when you look at some of the vendors who have to analyze behavior on an endpoint rather than secure at the kernel layer. You need solutions that were designed with privacy in mind, rather than try to adopt like a first generation of something that's been rushed out, especially if your user is most certainly going to be concerned, right? They play Fortnite on these machines. They go on Facebook in the evenings. That's what they've been using this computer for some time. And now, potentially data, their personal usage is going to be exposed. And then conversely, right? They want to be able to engage with corporate data, but the corporation doesn't want their data exposed or leaked or sitting on an unmanaged device. These three pillars, looking at securing applications and data, securing endpoints, and securing network traffic and usage, it has to be kind of a core to the approach, right? In order to do this the correct way and be able to truly enable safely and securely working from anywhere you'd like.
One of the other things we're seeing is, on the communication side, and we're seeing a lot of growth and interest in this, just over the last 10 days is, hey, how do I reach out and give people accurate information? And how do I reach them through a number of different channels? That's one of the things BlackBerry's done extremely well over the last decade with our Adhoc solution, supporting thousands of customers with this. But one example, Contra Costa County in California, 1 million person county, the shelter at home command came out and they had to actually notify 1 million people in a very short time frame. And we were able to help them do that and push out official messages. They could, people would be confident in the information that they're getting. So there's you're kind of taking this corporate information. You're not just delivering it to employees. It might be on personal devices, but you're also just delivering it to general citizens out there. And how do you do that in a way that people can trust, to be confident with, and be confident about their privacy? So that is an example of the type of things that that we're seeing that go beyond just the company. And we're also seeing beyond just knowledge workers working at home, the ability to empower grocery chain workers, for example. So we have some customers we're working with where they're constantly having to change around the shifts based on who might have been exposed to something. They need to change a cleaning schedule, tell people not to come in until they get through this cleaning exercise. They're hiring a lot of new people right away. How do they get in contact with them without a traditional onboarding process in place? And these are all things that, we're able to help them with by having a trusted communication platform that they're able to empower just on the cell phones that those people already have in place. To get the shifts right, to change schedules around on the fly.
Let's shift this a little bit. We're trying not to get this into being a product dump, but at the end of the day, we can reserve a little bit of time at the end of this to kind of get into the actual physical in the weeds and some of the solutions that we offer. Let's talk about one of the things I'm seeing question-wise, and that comes to my mind, is VPN, no VPN, what can be done? Rich, you touched on this a little bit too. I personally am set up to work from home. I am a remote employee, always was a remote employee before COVID-19 came along. Not everybody is. So people that are coming in, people are using their personal devices here. What are the alternatives that we have? What's out there that could be kind of your next gen alternative to a VPN?
There is a definite delineation right there. There's a difference between remote capable and full work from home. Because many of us or some people in some organizations have already been mobile enabled and they have remote access. There's many knowledge workers that have to go deeper. They have to be present. They have to be in front of devices, or they have to be closer to the data, or the data is in a place that is not exposed to the remote access. So remote access is one place, but then fully enabling, essentially work from home as if the person was sitting in the corporate office or in an official location. It could potentially be two different things, or it could have different impact to how you enable that appropriately to identify which worker needs to be in which bucket.
Yeah, and VPN, I would say, introduces a lot of risk when you're putting it on a machine that you don't control and from a network that you don't trust. So, the risk there is exposing other devices on the network if that machine is infected with malware, and malware using that VPN connected machine as a conduit to the rest of the network is high risk. So when putting something on a home computer, the best answer is no VPN. And what we're offering, and we didn't get to the product, I guess, is the product that we have in market. We've had a couple of these in market for quite a while. What we launched earlier this year is a bundle, and it's three main things. And the core to it is the product called Blackberry Desktop. And what this does is it provides a secure enclave onto the machine. It's a very simple installation and activation. And inside of that single application, you got access to corporate email, contact calendar, PIM, and you also have a secure browser. And the connectivity is facilitated through the Blackberry infrastructure. And it does allow for synchronization. So, you start it up, your email syncs, you got email downloaded, you got attachments downloaded, but everything remains inside of the secure enclave. And the browser gives you immediate access to behind the firewall web applications, as well as SaaS applications where conditional access is required. So the connection is coming from the company's controlled network. And what we've done recently is combined the installer with the Cylance Protect application, and to provide confidence in the machine or the endpoint that it's going on to know that it's not infected with malware that's doing like screen scrapes or keyloggers, things like that. And then the other piece of the bundle there is through a partner relationship that we have with a company in Belgium called Awingu, A-W-I-N-G-U. And what they do is they provide RDP access, remote desktop, remote application delivery to that endpoint through a browser. And so our Access browser is now embedded with Awingu. So you press a button and you get connected to your remote desktop or remote workplace, which then gives you, icons of exposed or allowed applications directly. And they could be any Windows application, even old legacy RS-232 apps or Telnet, whatever they need. And the cool part about that product is it does complete auditing. And if the application, whether the whole session or any particular application is especially sensitive, maybe it's accounting or health records or something like that, that session can be fully recorded for auditing purposes. So every user, every connection, every app they use is already in the log. But if you want a video recording of a specific session, you can do that as well. So the benefits then for the user is they don't have to worry about VPN. The company doesn't worry about exposure through VPN to an uncontrolled endpoint. And it's just really quick and easy, full security, full delineation of corporate data from personal side. The organization has full IT control of that, so they can preclude or disable copy and paste outside of that secure enclave, disable exporting of any files, any of that. So it's just a single interface for all of my work data, whether it's accessing email or even full just remote controlling my desktop at my desk. That's a scenario, especially with the stay-at-home stuff going on right now. That's been especially helpful to our customers.
I'm getting questions around specific products and things of that nature. We wanted to be careful not to get into a deep dive, and we're more than happy to. We're also happy to take these offline and have conversations. Right now, at the time where people are moving to work from home, I know there's been questions around, are we offering anything? Is there any free usage that we're offering? You know, this is a good time to bring that into the conversation. What are we doing for our customers? There are 3 areas. One Alex just touched on is the free usage of the Blackberry desktop. The second one is free usage of Protect, which is your endpoint security. And then the third one is the free usage of Adhoc. So let's dive a little bit into there and how those are helping customers. And we could also incorporate a little bit of what the competitive landscape looks like, the differentiators. So Alex, I'm going to start with you just because you were just talking about some of the containerized approach. How is this us giving me as a remote employee on my personal laptop? I personally have configured it. I know how easy it is to get it configured, set up, but how does that differ from other solutions that are out there?
A number of ways. One, I think it's just important again to reiterate this is going on potentially a home computer, but it also needs, stuff needs to work across mobile devices as well. So it's mobile devices, tablets for sure when you're talking about VDI or remote desktop, because you need the larger screen to be really productive and efficient on that. It's a valid point. There are VDI solutions out there and they've been around for a while. A lot of the customers that we work with have very mature deployments of this. Typically though, that's deployed to their standard mobile workers. And again, expanding that to 100% of the workforce could be challenging if they have to beef up the infrastructure to support the added load that's going to be on there, not to mention the licensing and stuff that goes on with that. VDI, depending on what part of the world you're in, because we're helping customers all over the world, we find some parts of the world have problems with latency or the user experience isn't as good when they have these types of home networks that aren't really enterprise grade. The way that we do with a Wingo, or Wingo does it in their product, is it's very efficient. They're taking RDP protocoling, converting it to HTML5, so very efficient protocol, very lightweight, works well in even higher latency networks. I mean, I've done full demos on 3G, works really, really well on that. And we have customers that, just going back to the traditional VDI, getting this deployed to non-typical mobile workers creates a challenge of just getting it deployed. Like typically deploying these clients to endpoints, if it's at the C-level, for example, that usually requires a scheduling with IT and a walkthrough and, kind of complicated a little bit there. When you want to deploy this to 5,000 users, that becomes a challenge in getting that out there. So some of our customers still use some other back-end traditional VDI like Citrix, for example, but they want to be able to control some of the additional IT policies like screen captures and things like that. So they're deploying it through the Blackberry desktop, our browser, so that they can add those additional data leakage protections on there. And it makes it super easy for the users to get connected. So super simple, super secure. And then the cost of it overall is a lot less than the traditional VDI would be.
Rich, talk to me a little bit on the kind of your endpoint, the endpoint protection. What are we doing and how does it differ from what you're seeing out there and what we're coming across?
One of the challenges that exist, obviously, with anything outside of the corporate-owned machines is being able to run enterprise-grade security on a device that may not have been specified by the organization. And so you have a mix of devices, a mix of OS support, even a mix of patching level, even whatever could potentially be on the device from a security perspective. So we have a solution that is It's a full enterprise grade solution that can work on any device, works at home, works in corporate environments. I would say one of the most really important things is to remember is how much do current security technologies rely on outside access in order to be effective. For years, the antivirus industry, the legacy antivirus industry, needed daily, weekly, monthly updates. They needed to be able to check with repositories in the cloud. While cloud dependency is interesting, or it's good to be cloud enabled, we really need technologies that are not cloud dependent, right? That they have the smarts on the device to be able to protect itself in an advanced way from both file and fileless based attacks, and do so that uses very little resources on the endpoint so it doesn't bog down the machine regardless of the size of machine or the resources that are available. Our technology allows that to happen, right? I've actually run it on many of my home devices for years, in-laws and other folks like that, able to protect them while not disturbing their work or causing friction for them, but at the same time, not requiring cloud or outside access, right? We're trying to protect against advanced and new attacks. There's some reports out there that phishing campaigns and APT style campaigns are on the upswing because they know lots of knowledge workers are beginning to work from home, both on consumer grade network gear, which sometimes is not as robust as necessary from a security perspective to be able to get into those home networks, but also know that there's consumer grade security solutions on those endpoints. Your last line of defense, meaning that endpoint security solution really needs to be your best line of defense, but it needs to be able to be deployed wide scale, worldwide, on almost any device, and be able to have the local smarts so that it is network friendly. It's not cloud dependent. It's cloud enabled, right? It's great to have connectivity to the cloud when you have it, but when you don't, or you have an inconsistent connection, or you just can't be online, to be able to protect it fully as well.
One of the things that we haven't talked about, we've talked about securing the endpoints. We've talked about this remote access without requiring a VPN and kind of the competitive landscape. David, talk to me a little bit about Adhoc and what we're doing. How is that helping customers?
Adhoc is our mass communication system, and it's bi-directional. So we're able to send out messages through lots of different channels, whether that be emails, texts, phone calls, flashing signs, whatever types of channels you want to add into the communication. And you're able to really, with a fine grain, control who's getting those. So it could be pretty broad based, it could be geographic based, it could be role based, and integrate in business processes around that. So for example, we have folks now that are sending out employee health surveys, having people respond back on their condition. It's bi-directional. We're having, as I mentioned earlier, some governments using it to do mass delivery of messages to the entire population, where people can be confident that it's an official message. Things like hospitals, police departments, retail, like grocery stores, really using this for shift management and shift recall and changing around staffing on the fly. So, the real value, what we're bringing there is this ability to do trusted communications on a mass scale, but at the same time, refine that down around particular business processes and particular groups as needed, and both to deliver that message and also get appropriate responses from people. So it really helps you quickly roll out a communication system that's going to not be dependent on any corporate infrastructure.
Excellent. I'm going to dive in. I'd like to get into a couple of questions. I know one question that has come up, are we giving any product demos on this call?
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, if you guys are okay with it, I can bring up the Blackberry desktop product, show the email client, show the web capability, and show the Wingo capability.
That's a very powerful demo, and I'm happy to do it at the end of this. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into a few of the questions that we have here. Robert, thanks for participating. Thanks for the questions. Alex kind of hit on this. Have you seen significant growth in this space, or are you seeing an increased demand for your work from home solutions in the wake of the COVID-19? We already talked about what the offerings were with the free usage. With that being said, we've seen these are solving for several use cases, and the use cases that we're solving for are certainly nothing new. Contingency and business continuity. The interesting thing here, the highlight is, we're not talking about typically your contingency planning or business continuity planning is for regional events, right? There's a hurricane in Houston, Texas. there's an earthquake in Northern California. This is a global pandemic that hit the entire global workforce. The biggest use case is absolutely BYOD. This is something that's been solved for a long time. Work from home, I would kind of tie under part of that, bring your own device. Securing access for contractors is another huge use case here. Secure remote access as well. So again, we have seen steady growth in this. I will say that right now, what we have seen is a huge spike, obviously, because I think Rich highlighted it really well. It's not just the traditional employees such as myself that's already remote, or the people that are in and out of the office, right? Sales, engineering, different people like that that are in and out of customer sites. Those people are already equipped. It's maybe your finance department, maybe the HR department that's suddenly doing this overnight. Next question, do we have a minimum bandwidth required for a good remote secure access?
Where if you're using Blackberry Desktop to get like email, that's just going to sync. Like you're not going to know. As long as you got connectivity, you're going to get email. Email's not something that you typically like wait for, you know. Browsing, same thing. You're dependent on your connectivity and your bandwidth. You'll see some latency potentially there. And same thing with the Wingo. Like I said, we've done in the Wingo, and I can show you what it looks like when I get to the demo. You can ask it, you know, what is my connection like? And I've done full-on demos in environments where it told me the connection was very poor. Like one time I was at a hotel doing a presentation with 500 people in the room. And I was shared Wi-Fi, not only with the people in the room, but with people in the hotel. It wasn't ideal, but went through with the demo, worked fine. So I don't have a number for you, but it's very resilient. We've had really good experience with it.
So here's one. So the end user does not really need a VPN, just an access to the corporate network from outside is enough?
Well, the access to the corporate network is facilitated through our product, our connectivity. So the answer is, you're correct. You do not need a VPN for everything I'm going to show you. And the connectivity is facilitated through a connection to the Blackberry infrastructure, which then tunnels down an existing connection from the Blackberry UEM server. So it's one server that provides all the capabilities. What happens is it creates and maintains a secure authenticated connection to the Blackberry infrastructure. All of the clients, whether it's desktop or mobile or whatever, they have a certificate-based authenticated connection to the Blackberry infrastructure also, and that facilitates that secure connection. And what's also unique about our model is we require no inbound connections through the firewall. So it's that outbound bidirectional connection that the UEM server establishes that facilitates the connection. So greatly reduces the attack vector from a cybersecurity standpoint on the DMZ by requiring no inbound connections.
Okay, Michael, and I've lived in this world with and without VPN. So hi, we have work laptops that we took home with us. However, we have some issues with VPN licensing for users that need to connect to the locally hosting applications. Is Blackberry Desktop still a possibility to use?
Blackberry Digital Workplace. It's going to depend on what the actual use case is, whether you could get away with Blackberry Desktop by itself, which is a component of the bundle, Blackberry Digital Workplace. If you want remote desktop as part of it, then you would need the bundle, and that includes the Wingo for the remote desktop piece. But the answer is almost certainly yes.
Excellent. Russ asks, outside of existing customers that already have remote access, these can simply increase the number of endpoints. However, how can you help small, medium businesses that want work from home from scratch with no CISO, no IT? Can you turn them on easily? This would be a new market for Blackberry.
But let me reiterate the use case I gave a little bit earlier, that health insurance organization. This was an organization in India. They had 1,000 employees and they had nothing. They had no Blackberry technology deployed. What we did with them was using partners on the ground. We have a really healthy partner ecosystem of MSPs or MSSPs and consulting partners to provide delivery services. That's how that organization was able to deploy in 48 hours, from zero to productivity, 48 hours. And they did use the help of a partner to help them deploy that. So we can provide guidance, but typically if they don't have any IT, you know, they're probably looking at a partner to provide assistance. We do provide either on-prem or cloud deployments of the core technology, like the infrastructure of UEM. And if they still need behind the firewall connectivity for internet apps or whatever, then there is a connector, like a single machine connector that we can install behind the firewall to facilitate that connectivity model that I outlined. In this case, that organization required everything to be on-prem. So even with the on-prem requirement, we were able to get them operational fully in 48 hours.
Yeah, and for a small business, if people are using Office 365 for their email and everything, then we can do it fully just from the BlackBerry cloud. It's fairly simple to set up and configure, and any needed services we can do remotely for you.
Excellent. Rich, anything you'd want to add to there on the Protect side of the house, on the endpoint security?
Actually echo exactly what both David and Alex said. So not only working directly with partners locally, but we can do quite a bit of installation and configuration all remotely. Typically can deploy the security, what I would call the core endpoint security products, quickly across an organization. Typically, if we can send an MSI exec, like through SCCM or some other software advisement tool or advertised software if you could roll it out quickly, usually within 2 to 3 minutes per endpoint, you can have each one of them up and running. We've done stress tests where we've had organizations deploy thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of machines within a very short period of time and be up and running, sometimes by the end of the day, sometimes by the end of the next day or two. So we can get them quickly enabled on that aspect.
And that, of course, is for corporate-owned machines where they are enrolled and they can do that remote configuration. But what we've done to make it easier, users that are going to be using personal computers that aren't managed, is we've embedded the Cylance Protect installer into the single install of the BlackBerry Digital Workplace. So it's one exe, communicate to your users to do the deployment. They run the installation. Everything that they need gets installed with that single installer, and then they just have to do the activation. And so we've made that as simple as possible.
Excellent. Rich, I think this one will come right directly to you. I'm going to speed it up a little bit here since we want to carve out a little bit of time to put a demo into this as well. What happens if the user machine was infected or attacked?
So if you're already walking into a machine that is infected or attacked, find some indications depending on when you deployed the solution. If you believe it is already infected or attacked, it cannot be trusted. If malware ran, or if you believe it's already compromised, you shouldn't obviously be doing work on a compromised system, and we'll need to find other mechanisms to do that. In many cases, in some cases, I won't say in all cases, we would see events that occurred, not really the events, but the binary material or some of the evidence that there may be a problem on the device. Remember that the traditional Protect and Optics products are designed to protect going forward, right? So they're not particularly an IR tool where you go and search and destroy. You can certainly search and destroy after you've been on the device for a bit. If you believe any of your devices are currently infected, then we need to find another mechanism, rebuild the device, respond to it in some way. If you believe it's already infected, we may see some tracking when we get into there, but can't guarantee it since the machine would already have been compromised before we got there.
What is the difference between your solution and Citrix?
Well, Citrix is a backend VDI provider. They sit on top of Microsoft RDP, just like anybody else does. So we don't require Citrix, but we can also become the Citrix endpoint client. The difference is there's a couple of them. There's the backhauling of the full RDP client, where instead Wingu, and this isn't our product, this is a partner embedded product. So I'm kind of speaking on their behalf at this point, but they'll convert the larger, heavier RDP protocol to HTML5. So it's got a really, really good response. It provides an amazing desktop capabilities and some other features that some of our customers really like the auditing and the full recording of the sessions. There's a number of things there. It's just a lot easier to deploy. It's a lot less expensive when you do the comparison, depending on what your use case is or configuration. We don't need to account connectivity. So with traditional VDI or Citrix, you got to do the Citrix receiver. You got to do some work in the DMZ to provide that connectivity. With BlackBerry, with a Wingu, it just takes on the connectivity model that BlackBerry delivers. And so there's no additional configuration or setup that's needed. You literally just install it's a virtual appliance. You just incorporate that into your VMware farm or whatever, and then it's just ready to go.
So we've got a question on listing some of the advantages of BlackBerry Secure Access versus a classic VPN. We're going to incorporate that, if we may, into the demo. We have two Adhoc questions. Can you use Adhoc to collect and help New York City to track COVID-19 patients? And the second similar questions is, I assume there's a GPS tracking by the Adhoc collect so the patients are guaranteed to stay home.
We do enable you to leverage GPS. Obviously, there's privacy considerations and policies, so you need to check all that out. We can't guarantee people could stay home, but you could be aware that someone's left a certain area. We can do some tracking of that way, but we can also do notifications to people that are in a certain area. So if someone in a certain area is positive, we can send out notifications to people in that area. But all of that, you need to work through the privacy considerations.
I'll tell you how some of the organizations are using it, even at BlackBerry. But if you get a full deployment of Adhoc already, one of the ways companies want to do that is communicate with their users to provide updates and things like that, but also do a health check. So do push out. You can have those responses like press 1 to respond in this way, press 2 for this, and you can respond whether it's a text message, email, or phone call. And we have other methods of communicating that, outbound communication as well. But that organizations are using that in some cases to develop hotspots. So in the command and control console for Adhoc, you get a map of all of these incidents that are reported. So it gives you really quick, easy way to get a heat map of people that are showing symptoms in the organization. And we've seen companies say, we've got a certain number of positive cases or people with symptoms in this building. That's the building we want to take priority, shut that down first, and just gives organizations more data to be able to respond more effectively and efficiently.
Excellent. When we talk about secure remote access, only BlackBerry Desktop is concerned, or all the UEM suites. So if you're an existing BlackBerry Enterprise suite, so that's Choice, Freedom, or Limitless, Desktop is included in there. It just needs to be enabled. Read about the BlackBerry video conferencing is only up to 15 parties. Is that true?
15. BlackBerry Enterprise Messenger for encrypted text and voice and video calls. We've recently added the capabilities for multi-video chat, and that's 15. So just a very lightweight tool to be able to spin up quick video chats.
Absolutely. And is it worth noting that we also have containerized Zoom as well?
We do. So we've launched a containerized version of Zoom for mobile. So for phones and tablets, we're seeing a really big spike. That's one of the applications that's driving an increase in our ISV application usage.
Let's get into the demo now, and we can kind of roll from there.
And I'll just share my whole screen because I want to show you, this is really just an app. It's just an app, but everything in here is a secure enclave. So I can block copy and paste and screen captures and all that. I don't do that on my implementation. This is all lab data. The reason I don't is because if I block screen capture, then I won't even be able to display it over WebEx or Zoom or things like that. Really does lock it down. But you can see this is the email client. We've got additional icons up here for the other components of the solution. So email, calendar, contacts, and I've got my web browser. I've also got my downloads area, and all of it, everything that I do inside of this window stays inside of this window. The data is stored separately and encrypted differently than anything else on the native OS. But I got my emails here. I've got integration with the GAL. I can click here and see other messages we've shared. All of that is there. I've got draft syncs. The cool thing about this is that, and it's a major difference of using traditional VDI, is that I can use this when I'm not connected to any network. Once my email syncs down, I have access to all my emails, all of the documents that I've downloaded. I can do my viewing and editing, and work on a plane or whatever. And then when I connect, all of my drafts will send, and or all of my outbox will send, and so on. And so you can deal with attachments here, and I can download them. They'll show up in my downloads area there. I've got my my browser here. I want to show you this because then I can get into the Ringo piece as well. But I also wanted to call out what some companies are using this for is conditional access into Office. So in this browser, this is the BlackBerry Access browser, I'm connected externally to Office, but the route that I'm taking is going through the corporate secure network. We have conditional access turned on. And what that means is if I just start Chrome on the OS of this machine, I will not be able to get well, I won't be able to log in to Office because of that conditional access. And so this provides me really, really easy. I just start up the browser, I connect into Office, I got the capabilities to do the full suite of that. But if I did need to connect to an actual desktop, whether it's a server or a desktop, I can go into here. And so what we've done, we've built in that Wingo icon into the browser. So with that one click, I've got single sign-on access into this environment. So what it's showing me here are my most used common applications and files as well. So you can have access to file shares. You can edit that directly. You can provide share links to people and things like that. So these are my file repositories that I have access to. And then I've got all of the applications that are made available to me by my administrator. So that was just a different view than my workspace is my typical applications. But what you can see here is that what you can do here is expose direct applications or full desktops. And then you can run multiple sessions at the same time. So I might have one application and then another window or instance with an actual desktop. So you can see very quick access into Word. So the way that I use this now is I travel now with my 12-inch iPad with a full keyboard. And then we use this Blackberry desktop solution in production. So I can use a Wingo through my Access browser on my laptop, which is just a regular standard Dynamics deployment. And now I have access to full actual Office and including Outlook right from my iPad. So I use that on my iPad, doing a full Outlook. I got the keyboard, I got the mouse. I'll just show you what a desktop looks like if I can get in here and then go back and forth. And these sessions, like I said, they could be recorded. Oh, I think there's maybe too many people on that one. This is the lab environment, not the production environment. Okay, I think it's being overloaded with demos at the moment. I mentioned you can video record the sessions for either like a single app or all of the apps, a full desktop. And that question that you raised, Bob, a minute ago around the availability. So yes, Blackberry desktop itself, like the email client, all of this, including the browser, the secure browser, is all included in all of our suites. So if you're already a Blackberry UEM customer, you are already licensed for this. You can simply deploy it. You just enable it. There's some additional controls that you can configure in the UEM server that creates different, if you wanted different policies when it's a access deployment on a mobile or if it's access on Blackberry desktop. So you have the ability to, like I said, block, copy and paste and printing and all of that stuff. You have full IT control over. So with only 2 minutes left, I'll stop the demo there and if there's any other questions you want to get to, Bob, or if you want to get to a summary.
This is perfect. So Michael asks, would this work with legacy software as well? And is this connecting to a server or a desktop?
This one in particular is connecting. The back end of this is going to be the Windows. What do you call it? I'm sorry, the name escapes me. It's not connecting to a desktop, but you could create mappings to connect directly to my desktop. So if it's a work from home scenario where urgently I had to leave my computer at my desk because it's a desktop, not a laptop, and go work from home, I can connect to my desktop. Or what we've done here is we've just set it up with Windows RDP so I can connect to an array, a single farm of servers that are serving up these applications. And can it be a legacy application? Yes, it can be a legacy application like this one. This is a accounting software. And here's a notification that the application of the session that I'm about to start is going to be recorded. So, and that's one of the key use cases here is if you want to expose legacy applications that you really just can't get on mobile. And if you tried to do them from a home worker scenario, you'd have difficulty because you'd have to put a VPN on that personal computer and this application directly on that computer. And that's something security teams wouldn't, it's just not a good idea to put VPN on a personal computer and do it that way because you're exposing a lot of risk for data leakage there.
Thank you, Alex. A couple of things that I really emphasize here is we do have solutions. We've been very, very busy helping small, medium, and large enterprise government agencies around the globe to quickly move to this work from home. We do believe it's an industry leading solution. Again, right now, from a promo standpoint, we are offering free usage of the Blackberry desktop, the Protect, as well as Adhoc. Today, the goal and purpose is to help protect and get people protected into this new norm of what life has become for all of us today. It'll be interesting to see when this pandemic comes to a conclusion, what is the new normal for us? Is there going to be a lot more people remote working, et cetera? At the end of the day, we've got these secure solutions to keep people protected, to enable them to have that secure remote access. Again, whether it's a BYO use case, it's a contractor use case. At the end of the day, it's not just something that we can do, it is something that we are doing every single day. I just really want to thank you all for your participation and your questions. Alex, Rich, David, thank you for taking the time today and joining us on this webcast. We hope you found this beneficial. We hope you, your family, loved ones are all safe during this time. Thank you and have a wonderful day.